Alright, this is my Amalia Metaphysic Wireless. This is probably like one of my new favorite commanders from the new Ixalan set, so let's get straight into it. She's got Ward 3, or Ward Pay 3 life, so that means that you pay 3 life to target her with stuff. If not, the spell gets countered and it fizzles. Whenever you gain life, she explores. Then destroy all other creatures if its power is exactly 20. So it needs to become 20 with the Explorer effect. So, like, if you made it like 19 power, and then you explored, and then it became 20, it would do the effect. So you can't just make her like, oh, I'm just going to make her 20 power, and then she's going to board wipe all the other creatures. That doesn't work. So, yeah, this card's strong. Explore means that you look at the top card of your deck, and if it's a non-land, you can keep it there or put it in the graveyard, and then you put a 1/1 counter on the creature that explored. If it's a land, you put it into your hand. Okay, back to the cards though. Johnny's Welcome. Whenever a creature enters battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Authority of the Councils. Whenever creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Whenever they enter the battlefield, you gain 1 life. The card's just unfair. You play Authority of the Councils just to make your deck better. This is a strong deck, by the way. This is definitely a strong deck. Fragment Reality. 1 mana hits artifacts, non-token creatures, and non-token enchantments, and non-token artifacts. It's all non-tokens. And then when it removes them, you dig up your opponent digs up a creature with lesser mana value and it enters the battlefield tapped. The card's just unfair. Fragment Reality is just unfair. Soul Warden. Whenever a creature enters battlefield under anybody's control, you gain 1 life. Speaker of the Heavens is a 1/1 with lifelink and vigilance, and then when you can tap him and make an angel as long as you have 7 more life than your starting life total, which is 32 in this mode. Swords Plowshares. Exile target creature its control gains life equal to its power. Best removal. Well, probably Fragment Reality is the best removal. Swords is probably the second best creature removal. Dawnbringer Cleric. When it enters battlefield, choose 1. Cure wounds, 2 life. Destroy target enchantment, or it can Gentle Repulse. It can exile target card from a graveyard. Johnny's Primate is whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on him. Cool. Dawn of Hope. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 2 if you do draw a card, and then you can create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink, so it can trigger itself. Dexos Blessed by the Sun. Toughness is equal to your devotion to white, which means you count all the mana pips of white on your board, and that's his toughness. Whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield or perishes, dies. I don't like to use that word, remember. You gain 1 life. Gadia, Font of Hope. She can tap for mana to cast angels, and then angels enter with a 1/1 counter for each other angel that you already have, and she's got flying and vigilance. Lone Rider, I was thinking about trying this in Historic, because this card actually seems kind of strong. It has First Strike lifelink. It says at the beginning of the end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, transfer Lone Rider, and then it becomes a First Strike trample lifelink that's a 4/4 on turn 2. That's pretty strong. You can play it on like turn 2. Turn 3, even cast something like Revitalize and just flip it at the end of the turn. It's a bit slow, but I mean, that's pretty strong, honestly. Voice of the Blessed is a 2/2. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on Voice of the Blessed. As long as Voice of the Blessed has 4 more 1/1 counters on it, it has flying and vigilance. As long as it has 10 or more, it gains indestructible. So this card is just a straight up win condition. One of the best win conditions in life gain decks, period. Blood Artist. Whenever Blood Artist, another creature you control perishes, or anybody controls, perishes. Target opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life, so it drains for 1. Whenever 1 or more other creatures you control perish, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. This ability only triggers once per turn. Yeah, so Vren's pretty cool. He can only activate once per turn, so keep that in mind. But he does 2, like basically a lot of these effects are 1 damage, he does 2. Well, he doesn't do damage, he drains, but Cleric Life Bond. Whenever another cleric enters battlefield and control, you gain 1 life. Whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, you put a 1/1 counter on him. This card's good. He'd be absolutely insane if he could put more than 1 counter on himself per turn. But if he could, he'd probably be a little bit unfair, honestly, because he does everything by himself. Cruel Celebrant. Whenever a Cruel Celebrant or another creature or planeswalker you control perishes. Each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This is the best card of that type of effect. The dies and perishes effect. She's literally the best card for it. It's Cruel Celebrant. Death Touch. On Ellis Core, Sadistic Pilgrim, Death Touch. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Whenever another creature you control perishes, each opponent loses 1 life. This card's pretty cool. You might see her a little bit on ladder. She's a pretty cool uncommon commander that's actually like kind of surprisingly strong. There's another one in Ixalan. I'm going to build him up. He's a Selesnya guy. Stay tuned for that one. I'll reveal him later. Helliot Suncrown, indestructible. As long as your devotion to white is less than 7, or 5, excuse me, he's not a creature. Whenever you gain life, you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature or enchantment you control, and you can give lifelink to another creature for 2 mana, 1 white and 1. Evoke the Divine, pops target artifact and enchantment, you gain 4 life. 4 life's kind of a bit, so... Lyndon the Steadfast Queen has Vigilance. Whenever a white creature you control attacks, you gain 1 life. She's pretty good. She's a bit hard to cast, though, because she has 3 white. Lulu Forgotten Hollyphant, flying, specialized. When she enters battlefield, she can give a non-flyer perpetual flying, so I was kind of thinking about that with the commander. And then when she specializes, she gains life based upon flyers. Her white effect is you gain twice as much life as other flyers that you have, so if you have like 3 flyers, you gain 4 life because you don't count her. And then the black one is like a drain effect. Path of Bravery, as long as your life total is greater than or equal to your starting life total, creatures you control get 1/1. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control attack, you gain life equal to the number of attacking creatures. This card's pretty good. I mean, it's good for it because it's another life gain trigger. Like with life gain decks, you want to have your life gain stagger your triggers. You want to have them like gain life in different increments of time. Like, you play a creature, it gets all the ETB life gain, and then you swing and it sees another life gain trigger. You know what I mean? That's how you want to play your life gain decks. Trust me, I've been playing life gain for 4 years now. I know how to play a life gain deck. Resplendent Angel has flying. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain 5 or more life this turn, you create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance, so it's Sarah's Angel. And then you can pay 6. Until end of turn, she gains 2/2 and gains lifelink, so she can activate herself. Sarah's Angel is still a good card, honestly. Maybe not like the card itself, but when you start getting angel tokens like that for pretty much free for just playing the game, yeah, they're still pretty dang good. Righteous Valkyrie is flying. Whenever another angel or cleric enters battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness, and then when you have 7 more life than your starting life total, each creature you control gains 2 attack and 2 defense. He's a double, Resplendent Angel, she's a double Anthem. She's nuts. Like, it's a straight up win condition right there. Bastion of Remembrance gives you a guy, a 1/1 human, and then whenever another creature you control, or whenever creatures you control perish, you drain your opponent for 1 each. For each creature, for 1. Like Market Connections, you can pay 1 life, get a treasure, pay 2 life, draw a card, pay 3 life, get a 3/2 shapeshifter, so it's every single creature type. This card is good when you can gain a lot of life. When you can piano the abilities, pick all 3 of them, that's what I'm talking about when I say piano, or pick most of them more often than not, that's when that card's good. Honestly, I mean, it's just a good card anyways. You can even just get the 1 treasure token for 1 life. You just want to gain a little bit of life with it because it's really exceptional when you can piano it every turn. Bloodthirsty Aerialist has flying, and then whenever you gain life, you put a 1/1 counter on her. It's pretty simple. Graveyard Trespasser. When it enters battlefield or attacks, you can exile a card from a graveyard. If it's a creature, you gain 1 life, and your opponent loses 1 life. And then when it turns into Graveyard Glutton, you exile 2 cards at a time. Gumdrop Poisoner has Tempt with Treats, create a food token. Lifelink, when Gumdrop Poisoner enters the battlefield or attacks, enters the battlefield, target creature gains -X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gain that turn. Phyrexian Arena, you lose 1 life and draw an additional card at your upkeeps. It's a bit not exactly right when you draw, but it's like just a slightly different timing. Kimbo Council of whatever, he, whenever your opponents cast non-creature spells, he drains them for 2, so you gain 2, they lose 2. Murkoff Purifier's lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, you may pay 2 if you do draw a card. That card's good. It's like the Dawn of Hope on a body, so he's actually really good. Johnny Adversary Tyrants. +1, put 2 1/1 counters on one of each creature. You have to you target 2 creatures. You don't have to target up to 2 creatures, but you can't put 2 1/1 counters on 1 creature. It has to be one on each creature. His -2, he brings back creatures with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard straight to the battlefield. His -7 is at the beginning of your end step, you create 3 1/1 cats with lifelink. Alright, this card's just excellent. He's a bit slow, but he is a really excellent planeswalker, especially for Najani. Najani Strength of the Pride. His +1, you gain life equal to the number of creatures and planeswalkers you can control at the time you activate it, so it's like a big chunky life gain. He makes Najani's Primates tokens, which are 2/2s that whenever you gain life, you put a 1 counter on them. And then his -0 is actually -0. If you have 15 more life than your starting life total, you exile all your opponent's creatures and creatures and artifacts and him. Archangel Elspeth creates a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. -2, put 2 1/1 counters on target creature, gains flying, and becomes an angel. Her -6, return all non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield all at the same time. She's just a big chunky win condition in a lot of these life gain piles because most of their like core cards are all 3 mana or less. Elspeth Sun's Nemesis. Her -1, note that this planeswalker has no pluses, so she's meant to like eventually perish. Her -1 is actually quite strong. Up to 2 target creatures you control gain 2 attack and 1 defense until end of turn. Her -2, you create 2 1/1 white human soldier creature tokens. -3, you gain 5 life. It's pretty simple. The gain 5 life is pretty nice because there's a lot of cards that call for that much life to be gained at one time, especially like Resplendent Angel. She's excellent to pair with that. The Wandering Emperor has Flash, and as long as you played it with its Flash effect, like during your opponent's turn, you can activate one of her loyalty abilities as though she was an instant speed. You can only do that the one time, though. She can make a Samurai, the 2/2 with Vigilance. She can give something a 1/1 counter in first strike, or she can exile target tap creature and you gain 2 life. Consuming Oni has Flying Menace. At the beginning of your end step, you curse a card in your hand to where it perpetually costs 3 more life to cast. Like when you cast it, you automatically lose 3 life. Like it goes on the stack or whatever, but Revenge of the Ravens. Whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, that creature's controller loses 1 life and you gain 1 life, so you drain, and that's for each creature, so that can be pretty crazy against like big go wide strategies. Revenge of Ravens can literally stop them from attacking. Shieldred, the Apocalypse, you've seen it before, has Death Touch 4 or 5. Whenever you draw a card, you gain 2 life. Whenever your opponents draw cards, they lose 2 life. Twilight Prophet has Flying and Ascend. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the City's Blessing, you reveal the top card of your opponent or your library, and your opponent gets drained for that card's mana value and you place it into your hand. So she's a little bit of card acceleration. She's a really cool mythic rare. She's a mythic rare, but she's cool. She's old. Cleansing Nova, you've seen that in every list that I play that's white. You either pop all creatures or pop all enchantments and artifacts. You choose one or the other, but not both. Crescent Sunmere, other horses you control have indestructible. Whenever you gain life, you make a 5/5 white horse at the end of your turn, so it only triggers once per turn. Lyra Dawnbringer is Flying, first strike, and lifelink. Other angels you control have 1/1 and have lifelink. We have Clackbridge Troll, has Trample and Haste. When he enters the battlefield, you give your opponent 3/0/1 white goat creature tokens. At the beginning of combat on your turn, any opponent may sacrifice a creature. If a player does, you tap Clackbridge Troll, gain 3 life, and draw a card. So this guy is kind of like gives this, like, because he's really big and strong, he's an 8/8 for 5 mana that has Trample and Haste. Like, that's pretty nuts, honestly. So they can pay off the Troll. Witch of the Moors, this card's insane. has Death Touch. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, each opponent sacrifices a creature, and you return up to one target creature from your graveyard to your hand. That just like -2 for your opponent, where they lose one thing and you gain back one thing. This card's absolutely mental, honestly. This card's very strong. You should get it for free just by starting the game. I know you get at least one of them for free. Kaya the Inexorable. You put a Ghost Form counter on up to one target creature. It gains when this creature is perishes or is put into exile, returning to its owner's hand and create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. You can exile target non-land permanent. And then you get an emblem at the beginning of your upkeep. You may cast a legendary spell from your hand, your graveyard, or face up among exiled cards you control. This card's nuts. Lisa, Fallen Archangel is flying lifelink. Whenever a non-token creature you control perishes, you may return that card to your hand at the beginning of that turn's end cycle, and that turn's end step. And then whenever your opponent's creatures perish, they get exiled instead. Farewell is choose one or more exile all creatures, enchantments, artifacts, or graveyards. So you can pick all 4, pick 3 of them, or whatever. Seal's Wrath, this card's actually pretty bad, but it's got Prototype, that's what saves it. You can play it as a 3-mana 3/3, or a 6-mana 5/4, and then at the beginning of combat on your turn, you pick a creature, and it can gain either lifelink, flying, or vigilance. Valkyrie Harbinger is basically a Resplendent Angel, except you only need to gain 4 life, and it does everything by itself. Noxious Gearhulk has Menace. When he enters the battlefield, you can pop a creature, and if you do, you gain life equal to its toughness. Angel of the Dire Hour has Flash and Flying. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, exile all attacking creatures. So this card is basically like Settle the Records, except it's like not bad. Amelia's Call. Create 2 4/4 white angel warrior creature tokens with flying. 9 angel creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. And then it's a tapped white source unless you pay 3. Sarah's Emissary is flying. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a card super type. You and creatures you control gain protection from that card's super type. Super type being creature, land, planeswalker, instant, sorcery, and battle. Those are the ones you can pick in Artifact. Virtue of Persistence. Once we get to it. But yeah, so this is Virtue of Persistence. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. You gain 2 life. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you put a target creature from a graveyard into the battlefield under your control. Card's just excellent, honestly. It's just a big win condition. It's good because it's a removal early, too, so it's not just sitting dead in your hand. Kaya Intangible Slayer has Hexproof. Each opponent loses 3 life, and you gain 3 life for 0 as you draw 2 cards. And your opponent may scry 1. Her -3 is exile target creature or enchantment, and then you make a copy of it on your side of the board, except it's a 1/1 spirit. Avacyn Angel of Hope has indestructible flying, and it has vigilance, and it gives all other permanents you control indestructible. Heliod's Intervention, you choose 1, pop target X artifacts and/or enchantments, or target player gains twice X life. The card's just great. Aghanim Awakening is a lot like Amelia's Call, where it's a tap black source, where you can pay 3 life and comes into play untapped, or otherwise it comes into play tapped. Or you pay 3 black and then X. Whatever X is, you pick creatures with mana values in that order. Like, say you play like X equals 5, it'd be like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You could bring all those back from the graveyard straight to the battlefield. And then it was mana-based.
Wealth against High Flyer, which, fun fact, a High Flyer in Magic is a flying creature that can't block creatures that are non-flyers. That's what a High Flyer is. They're playing Hexu and Kyrari. That's literally my favorite Dimir commander in the entire game. I apologize for not putting the timestamp in this video, and I couldn't tell you that because I forgot. Alright, Hexu and Kyrari, I freaking love this card. Whenever you play him, it brainstorms, so you draw 3 cards and put 2 cards from your hand on the top of your library in any order. Then whenever he perishes, you reveal the top card of your library, Your opponent loses life equal to its mana cost. If it's an instant or sorcery, you can cast it for free. You'll definitely see me play this guy plenty of time. Because I literally played this guy for probably about 3 months straight. Like when he came out, like once I discovered this commander existed, I built him up, I brewed him, I'm like, screw it, let me try this guy, he looks cool. Played him for 3 months straight, I adore this commander. You'll definitely see more of this on the channel. Understand that he is literally my favorite Dimir commander in the entirety of Magic Arena. By a country mile. I freaking love this card. He's strong enough to be a good card, but he's not absurd, because there's a lot of ways to play around him. Anyways, I play a Lone Rider here. That's the 1/1 with it's got first strike and lifelink, and then when you gain 3 or more life at the end step, it transforms into a first strike trample lifelink, so I'll definitely be trying that to store, because that seems pretty good, honestly. If you can kind of consistently get that, turn that into a 4/4, yeah, that can bring some pain pretty early. We go ahead and play Bastion of Remembrance here. We get Creator Human. We swing. Game 1. They lose once they go. It's their turn. They got a dinosaur head, because they are all that is Dino. All we know is Dino. All we know is Dino. All I have is Dino. Have you seen my Dino? It's kinda outside. They play Dread Fugue here. This target player reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card with it. The mana value 2 or less, that player discards the card. Cleave means you ignore the text in brackets. The card Dread Fugue is actually a really cool budget option to Thoughtseize, especially in Historic, because more often than not, a lot of cards cost 2 mana value or less. So you can hit a lot of stuff, especially against like Life Gain, Wizards, Mono Red. Those are just 3 examples that it pretty much hits like 90% of their deck anyways. So if you need Thoughtseizes, which you probably should eventually get, you can definitely use Dread Fugue and not feel bad about it. Honestly, it'll hit a lot of stuff. And in a certain list, you're gonna be able to clear it or cleave it eventually, and then it just hits anything. So, because it's a cherry pick discard. Remember, we went over what a cherry pick discard is. We go ahead and play our Johnny Strings of Pride here. Make it a Johnny's Pride, make say go. Okay, they play Hidetsu Kaiari here, and they Brainstorm. Remember, Brainstorm is when they draw 3, look at the 3 that they drew, take 2 from their hand, put it back on the top of their deck. When you hear a Brainstorm effect, because there's the card that they play first turn is called Brainstorm, that's the original card of that effect. And Hidetsu and Kaiari brainstorms, and Cavalier Gales is another example of a card that brainstorms when it comes into play. There's a few cards that do. Duress, it's a cherry pick discard, except you can only hit 9 creatures. So Duress is also a good one too. Duress can pretty much hit anything. Here's what I'm talking about with Hidetsu and Kaiari, how easy it is to play around, is you can just exile it. There's one way to play around it. You can counterspell it. Like, there's a lot of things you can do to deal with it. Because I played the commander a lot, so it definitely, you'll see a heck of a lot more lists with my Hidetsu and Kaiari. Like, I freaking love that card, honestly. I really do. I think it's fantastic. I think you should play it in paper. I think if anybody plays you, you can make the deck reasonably as strong as you want it to be. Like, it's a flexible commander, too. That's what I like about it. Because it's not super crazy by itself, honestly. You can break it, though, definitely. I'll show you some ways to break that commander wide open. They play the Iron Crag here. It's like Mind Stone. It's a mana rock. Except when you play a legendary, you can turn it into a 3/3 equip. It gives 3/3, but it cancels out the legendary's abilities. And it kind of stops becoming a mana rock, too. Once you pull the sword out of the Iron Crag, you know, because it's about the tail of Excalibur, because the stone that the sword Excalibur sits in is called the Iron Crag. That's why it's called that. So, that's a fun fact for you. We go ahead and play with a bunch of ravens here. We go ahead and gain some life. When we gain life, we put a 1-1 counter on this. This video is in 480p. I am trying this out because when I do full screen on my older videos, it cuts off like the half of the video. So you can't see my cards, you can't see most of my avatar, and you can't see my opponent's cards, their hand, or like any of their avatar. You can see everything on the board just fine, but you can't see current cards in hand. Unless it's literally like right in the middle of the screen. So, they play the next entire game. The Iron Crag contemplates getting pulled from the soul. They pull it, Everflame Hero's Legacy. They're thinking. They swing. We gain one, they lose one. We have to block here with Blood Artist. Drain them. Drain them. Counter. Drain. Counter. Say go. I'm going to say good game here. Because we just exile the creatures and swing. Because his ability is 0, but you exile it after you use it. So, and if you can see, it's a good game because we had lethal on board anyways.
Alright, we're up against Undead Saint. We're up against Ligrella the Magpie. She can exile creatures from both sides of the board, and then when the creature she exiles returns, like from your side, it gets 2 1-1 counters. So she's like a Bounce House ETB commander. Remember, a Bounce House deck, in my opinion, or not my opinion, excuse me, my definition, a Bounce House deck is, we have ETBs and we're kind of trying to abuse them. We want to use them more than once. So it's called a Bounce House, and you jump up and down, woo, Bounce House. You're up in the air, in the hand, drop back down on the battlefield, jump back up in the hand or wherever, and come back down, and enter the battlefield. It's Bounce House. So we play Daxos Blessed by the Sun. He's a 2/2 because he gives 2 mana pips for Devotion. Remember, the Devotion mechanic is you count whatever color mana pips. You see the Devotion of Light, how I'm over my mouse over it. That's the way you count. You count the white, black, blue, red, or green mana pips. Because there is no other Devotion. Like, there are only Devotion in colors. They haven't printed it. For my knowledge at least, I don't think there's a card that's devoted to colorless. Which would probably not be that good anyways. There is no Devotion to colorless. There is a few Eldrazi that actually call for colorless mana, because there are some cards, mainly the Eldrazi, that you have to spend colorless mana on. Because remember, colorless mana is like the one in that Containment Priest right there. That's colorless mana. That means you can play any mana color for it, or colorless mana for it. And colorless mana is it's a gray diamond, is what it looks like. You'll see it in a few Eldrazi cards. That's the only cards I can think of off the top of my head that actually call for colorless mana. Alright, then they play a land and just hold up 3 lands. So we're thinking that they probably have a counter spell, so we opt to play around it. We're thinking here, potentially, counterspelling or removing one of our threats. They're blue and white, so either white's probably got a few instant speed options. You've seen them before, Swords of Plowshares, Fragment Reality. We don't have Path to Exile in the game yet. It'll probably come here soon. Path to Exile is like Swords of Plowshares, except they dig out a land. Long Road Home. Yeah, because that can like exile things and then return it back if it's yours. We explore twice, make our commander bigger, and we opt to keep the card at the top of the deck because we want it. Send him. Yeah. Long Road Home would attempt to bring it back, but because of Containment Priest, the way Containment Priest works is that if cards were to come back on our side of the field, and they weren't cast from our hands, they can't enter the battlefield at all. So Long Road Home becomes a 2-mana exile. So, because Long Road Home is one of those like bounce house cards where it's like, oh, exile a creature, and then it comes back at the end of the turn. There's usually a few forms of bounce house cards, and there's a few forms of timings. To go over it in general, the timings will be it's a flicker effect. What I call a flicker effect is actually it exiles and leaves and comes right back. Like there's no delay. It flickers, leaves, comes back. Or there's like the travel effects, like Long Road Home, where they leave at the end of the turn, or at the end of the next turn, they come back. I call those the travel effects. So there's travel and flicker. Flicker is immediate. Flicker means that in the same instance they leave and come back. That's the same card effect, like during the exact same instance. Like it leaves, it immediately comes back. Sometimes it doesn't even move the stack along when it comes back. And they exile their stuff, because Containment Priest is like really hyperpowering their flicker / travel effects, because it's not allowing our guys to come back at all, because we can't, if a non-token creature would enter the battlefield, and if it wasn't cast, exile it instead. So we have to actually cast it. Containment Priest is a pretty good card. It's a prison card, is what you would call those types of cards. A prison card is, it doesn't allow you or your opponent, because sometimes you can play like a prison card on yourself, but it doesn't allow you or your opponent to do something. Like if it's a card that says, you can't activate artifacts, that's a prison effect. Or like Containment Priest, since we're not casting the creature, it can't enter the battlefield. That's a prison effect. So that's just something, that's a little fun fact of Magic. And in other card games, we might call them prison effects too. But in Magic, they're called prison effects. And we play Phyrexian Arena here as they go. Their turn, they just hold up mana, try trying to remove our guys. We would swing, but their new guy that they play, their OG bill, is a 2/3, so they'll just bounce off our Containment Priest. Or whatever, or not Containment Priest, or Cleric dude. Whatever his name is, whatever he is. But that OG Bill Exquisite Blade, that commander is pretty cool. I'll play a deck around her sometime. I played a deck around her once. It was alright. She's a bit underwhelming as a commander because you just have like better options. But I do like the card a lot. I think it's pretty sweet. She gains 2 life and scries 2 when she enters the battlefield. And she has a flicker effect where like once you play your second card, you can target a creature and then it flickers it. Because hers, like, they leave and then come back right away. So it's a flicker effect. Yeah, I bring it up right there. Whenever you cast your second spell, each turn exile up to 1 target creature you control, then return that creature straight to the battlefield. Because see, that happens in the same, even in like the same paragraph. So that doesn't start another stack or nothing. That happens all at the same time. So that's, I keep drilling this in because that's a ruling thing. And that matters. Containment Priest is going to perish here because we're going to gain 2 life, Gundrop Poisoner, give something -X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life that we gain as that ability resolves. So see, originally it was going to give 1. It was only going to minus her by 1/1. But because we gained life, and then she saw that, it bumped up to 2. So sometimes that matters. Usually doesn't, but that's like a little fun fact for you as well. Because some effects, which are pretty much never, they can activate and have a set number for when the effect activates. There's a Waka that does that. That Waka that bound to ruin, like as you activate that effect, even if your creature got removed, he would still deal damage of your highest creature. So let's say you had like 12/12 and it got removed as you activated that effect, it still does 12 damage because it's as you activate it. So pay attention to that as well. It's pretty simple wording, but just something just in case you're ever like, confused. That's how that works. Eligible the exquisite blade, just constantly putting in work. Because we're gaining 2 life and scrying 2, that's pretty, it's potent. We'll go ahead and take the opportunity to play Crescent Summoner, kind of go over the top. Because he's going to keep pooping out horses. Because he poops horses out, see? Makes a horse pooping. Horses pooping. He gives other horses indestructible. He raises if we ever gain life during our turn at the end step, or each end step. So that can even be on our opponent's turn. He's a mythic. He's a bit... Oh, they quit, so good game.
Alright, this is up against Irish Ninja. 1, 2, 3. Playing AR of Rockland. I remember this match, we do actually lose this one. So I'll just tell you right now. Spoiler alert, we lose. Bitter Blossom. That, at the start of your turn, it's a lot like a Phyrexian Arena. You lose 1 life, except you make a 1/1 black flying fairy. The card's amazing. That card was really strong back in its time when it came out, because it came out on Warwind, which is a really old set, where only a very few of the cards are actually still viable. Thoughtseize being one of them, Glitter Blossom's another one, and that's the only ones I can really think of off the top of my head. AR first Rockland, they're playing the alternate art. So whenever she enters battlefield or a black creature enters battlefield, you drain for 1. And then she can tap and sacrifice black creatures, and you can draw a card. I'll show you an AR first Rockland list. She's a very strong mono black commander. And mono black is definitely, as far as the colors are concerned, it's definitely one of the better colors to play mono, because you get discard, which discard can deal with every card type. Because discard's a lot like counterspells win. If you discard it first before it even hits the board, it's definitely as strong as it gets. And discard's very good against control spells like board wipes and stuff like that. It's actually some of the better ways of dealing with that type of stuff, is actually discard. We were thinking about dropping off our Witch of the Moors, but we go ahead and drop off our Gadia instead. Gadia. I'm thinking about it, like swinging. Come on, just let me bop him one time. Oh, bop him so bad! They go ahead and tap their Nyx, Shrines of Nyxos. That gives you mana equal to your devotion to your color. So it's definitely a land that you, if you play mono, a lot of mono color lists, or even like 2 color lists, definitely, I keep forgetting about that card, but you're gonna want to snap and include that land. It's called Nyx, Shrine of Nyxos or whatever. Just type in Nyx in the land section, you'll see it. I just popped it up there, but I didn't keep it for very long. Just type in NYX and you'll find it. For sure, you'll definitely want to craft it. It's a rare, but you definitely want to craft it, especially if you play Brawl. Like, that's definitely a staple card. Because like I said, I do want to keep you guys' decks pretty strong that watches my stuff, because you have to. Everybody else is going to play the strong stuff. You know, they have a system in place that, like, it kind of like rates your commander, and then it puts up commanders versus each other, but It's bullocks. I mean, it's kind of they'd have to code a pretty complex AI. So I'm not like saying they did anything wrong, but you'd have to code a complex AI and give like each card in the game a number value or some sort of value to where like an AI reads every single card in the list and it's like, well, this list has mostly S tier cards, so these two lists should fight each other, you know? They don't have that type of system. Their system is like, it looks at the commander and it's like, that's a pretty good commander. It should go up against pretty good cards or other pretty good commanders. But it's more so that you end up with a situation where it's like, you know, just reading off a commander. So some people, like, you can juke the list in this game. Like, I'll just tell you, you can juke the system in this game. It's not super absolute, but you can definitely do it. Where it's like you play like a weaker commander, and then you just play a bunch of really good cards in the deck. But you play a weaker commander. They've kind of fixed it somewhat. It's not as bad as it used to be. You definitely used to be able to juke it hardcore. So they're really going off at this list, their AR list. She's a really good mono-colored commander. Honestly, out of like a lot of the mono-colored commanders, AR is probably like one of the better ones, honestly. She really is. She's really, really good. So they go ahead and opt to draw a card here. Remember our Lisa, Grand Archangel, exiles their creatures instead of going to the graveyard. So, and that means that when they activate effects that say if it would die, they don't activate at all because they got exiled. They Eaten Alive here are Campbell. He's putting in work for us because he counts every non-creature spell and he's like taxing them, basically, for 2 by draining them for 2. He can get pretty crazy. He's definitely like an old school commander, like you've heard about him for a while because he's been around for a while. Like I said, we do lose this one, as you can see, they went super duper wide. And that Bitter Blossom really started accruing up a boatload of value. Because we got a few other cards like that, like Dreadhorde Invasion, where it's like it drains you for 1 and gives you a creature. White's got 1 too. Makes Phyrexian Might tokens that can't block, but they have Toxic 1. So, thing is with Dreadhorde Invasion though, is it only gives you 1 guy, and going wide is almost always better than going tall. Going tall is what you call it when you just make like 1 creature huge, and it's just like big and can fight an entire army by itself. But that's usually not as good in Magic as versus going wide. You almost always want to go wide versus going tall. Like right here, we're already finished anyways. Because the Persist is going to bring them back. They only need to play like 1 more creature. So, and I'm pretty sure they do it right here. Like I said, this one's a loss, so I'll definitely play her sometime. Good game. Well played.
Now more than ever, the Grinch needs your support to steal Christmas. So by all means, click the buttons, and thank you and have a wonderful day.